So what are the benefits of a drill down or drill through reports? So let's look at it from a data perspective. So we have 4 different reports here, basically. We have a summary report, which as you can see is a roll up by either a customer, by a division of something. This could be the same thing as a vendor and maybe a class ID, you know, anything along those lines. We're able to see comparisons over years. The next one is based at, say, the division level, to where again we're showing multiple pieces on here, and all the data here is from the same data source, and it feeds back up to the summary page. Well, underneath the divisions, we have our customers. So these would be all the different customers, in this case, that have a contract. It could be the same thing as all customers with their sales invoices, or all vendors with their payables, those type of things. And then underneath that, we have an actual contract. In our case, the contract is representing the bottom line of this. So basically, we're saying we start with the contracts tied to a customer to a division, and then out up to the summary. The reason I bring that up is a Power BI requires, in layman's terms, a hierarchy of data. In order to drill from one of these tabs to another report, I have to have something in common. So all of these right here have commonality of a contract. A contract's what they all have associated with them. From then it rolls up, of course, to the customer, and all the customers are tied to a division. And then with the division, it's taken all 3 of the prior reports and it rolls them up. So in a sense, is right now, if I wanted to look at a particular customer like Accurate Printing, if I had to go to each of these reports, I would have to filter down by the customer name to get to it. Then if I wanted to see to get the division, then if I want to see a customer, I have to filter down to get to that. And then if I want to see the contract, I'd have to come to this page and filter down to that. What a drill through does is the drill through allows you to make one change to your system, and then it actively changes the parameters on each of the other reports as you go. So you can see different layers of the data easily. That way you can get to the information quicker, which of course is going to give you the ability to react and make your decisions quicker. You can see it based on several different parameters, several different values. This could be the same as if we were doing it by counties or regions, maybe by the fastest or slowest delivery times. And then finally, we drill down to the basis of what's causing everything. The other thing that drill through does is it allows you to show data in completely different report structures with that one click. So by doing it with one click is I now have 4 different structures here, because each of these tabs is representing a different report with different data to it. And as I click on one and tell it to drill down, it dynamically changes everything else as I go. The other thing that a drill down report does is because it helps the server performance, because it's only showing one layer at a time. So here I'm saying, here's our top 10 customers by their contract amount. And I'm getting the data here that shows you that it's Accurate Printing, the contract amount is that. I'm showing that, I've got a blank customer name with a contract amount, which is just data in the test company Fabricam that is bad, and so forth and so on. The other thing it allows.
Excuse me, Alan, just double checking. We're seeing notes here. Are you showing us the demo screen? Are you demoing this, or? Just double checking which screen you're showing here.
Which notes do you see? And I'll move to the presentation.
I still drill or mode is a visual in Power BI, how to drill down. There we go.
I
Oh, that
apologize for that.
that's okay. No worries. Thank you.
Oh, so I'm sorry, I'll kind of just repeat that very well is when we look here, you know, we have our summary data, which is the customer contracts, more dollars by divisions, things along those lines. From there, we're able to bring up the division information. So now I can narrow this down to a difference between maybe a PM residential or a PM commercial, things like that. And then from there, I've got the data underneath it that's associated with the customer level. And then the last piece of data is the contract level. So as I mentioned, if I was to do this on 4 separate reports, each of these reports would require me to go in and filter these down to what I wanted to do. So in a sense, we're saying that a drill through allows us to take this data at this level, and then with one click, we're able then to drill down to the different categories we want to see underneath it. So the other thing you want to look at is certain things have to be in common. So if the customer doesn't have a contract, the furthest I would be able to get is to the customer information. You know, and this right here could be, let's say that we were dealing with contracts, but this revenue also was on something different, you know, a dollar amount of maybe a service or, you know, something like that. So this right here is looking strictly at the contract information. You'll notice that when we do this and we can look at our filter here, or if you call it our slicer, this is telling me that the filters here are looking at just the open contracts that have not been canceled, they're not on hold, and of course this right here is the top 10 version. If you look at one of these other ones, we're talking the same thing. This is showing me now that, again, all it's looking at is these 3 different criteria. So if this right here has a particular piece of information in it that can't be drilled back to a customer, it's never going to allow me to do that. Case in point would be this. If I right click on this customer, I can see that I have the drill through option to go to a customer. That's telling me that right now the only thing this information has in common is the customer and the summary page. If I was to look here at the contract amount by division and I right click here, this drill through takes me to the division. Again, because all we have in common, this is just showing me division data. Same thing with here. We have the age through, and same thing up here. So you'll notice as we get into a couple of the others, I might have the ability to go to 3 or 4 levels. In this case, it's there. So how do you get a drill through on a report? The drill through here is each time that you bring up a visualization, the ability for a drill through is here. The cross report option allows us to use it in other reports as the drill through. Keeping our filters is saying that whatever the filters are here, we push them through. And our values up here are telling us what it can be grouped on. So anytime you add a slicer being a filter, let's say, to there, you will see that you're able to do this. Now, by right clicking on here and going through our drill through, I'm going to drill to the customer level. It automatically takes me to the customer report and it narrows the customer down to the one I'm looking at. It now tells me that this customer has 7 contracts totaling $37.50. It still gives me my contract amount increase and percentage by year, which we had on the first page. It also still shows me the totals by division, but now all we're dealing with is this customer. I can still on here say all I really want to see is the open, the open, and with one click, I'm still able to do all this. Now at this point, I have 2 options. If I right click here, this is saying let's drill through to the contract. So as you can see here, by highlighting this now, if I was to go to the contract page without doing that, the contract is still showing a different number because I have not set this up with anything, meaning that I'm telling it I'm going to start at the highest level and work my way down. The minute I come back here, I've got my customer, I'm going to select contract 61. If I drill through to contract 61, it then takes me to that page and it brings me just to that contract. Now, once you go all the way down, and you'll notice here, this right here is showing me that the drill through is actively looking at that only. The other thing is when you see that, there are some other visuals that I want to show you. So even though it's a visual, you have the up arrow, meaning that means I can drill up from here. Or I could drill back down if I had more information underneath here. And then the other two here would be based on if we had hierarchy set up. Hierarchy being that maybe we had date ranges. So once I got to this, maybe I can also drill down more to, was this a $550 contract amount? I can show it's in the 90-day column, but I could also go back and maybe put a date range in so that I could see, I only want to see what it was Q1 of this year, Q2 or Q3. Now, when I say it is a hierarchy, I'm meaning this. If in the actual data you were to look at the date range and the contract expiration date, if I filtered in it, I would see a hierarchy here. Now here, this is where I could say I just want to see it by year, quarter, or month. When you drag the actual contract information over here, like this date range, you'll see that if I bring that in here, it gives me another slicer that allows me to do it by the different dates. But I have the choice here of saying I don't want to be it like that. I want to use the expiration date instead of the hierarchy. So again, it just brings me down to when the contract expired. Now this is good when you might have a customer who has several contracts in different date ranges. And of course, we would do this from the customer tab instead of from the contract tab. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is, let's get rid of this. So you can always, you'll notice when we do that, we then also have an arrow up here. Well, the arrow is a way of just quickly saying, I want to get back to the page I was on, which takes me back to here. And then of course I can still say one more, takes me back to the individual. So you can actually go back and forth easily without whether you want to do it this way or whether you click the tab, it works either way. So one of the other things is when you look at the drill down, so in here, I can say that I want to show the data point at a table. I can quickly hit this from here also, and it would actually take me to the table level to see the information. So by doing it at the table level, I'm telling to drill back to the table, because the table, of course, if I looked at it at a table view right now, would have all of the things on it. So we can go back to the report. You can do this. It says show as a table. I can tell it to group. I can tell it to include some data, exclude it. I could also copy this visual if I want to make changes to it. So if I decide that I want to add another filter, so in this case right here, let's add a date filter to this, and let's call it should have a transaction date of some sort. That. I got my contract start date. We're going to add the contract start date to this. And I'm going to take this as well and tell it that I want to be the contract date. Now, I added the contract date to this one. So you'll see that the minute I added a secondary or a hierarchy to it, because now I've got two things that I could key off of, I get all the icons here that I was looking for on the other page. So go to the next level of it. Again, if you click here, it just takes you down to those date ranges. I can go back up or go back down. So that is where you get that. And if you were to do the expand down, you will see that it breaks it this way. So the reason I bring that up is a lot of times when you're doing these, not only do I want to drill between different reports, I also might want to see this data in different ways. So you'll notice that I have this here, but the minute I come over here and take the start date back off of it, I go back to where I was. Now, I can just take what we call a slicer, and once we have the slicer, I did the same thing here, is I'm able now to drill down because I've sliced this data to see different things. Now, in this particular one, it doesn't do me as well as it would on a customer that I had multiple contracts. I just see them in a different view. The other thing that with these is anytime you see this, what I will call an eraser, by clearing that, it takes you back to it. Like, I have to click something first. You'll notice that when I do that, it dynamically changes these as well. And by doing this, it takes it back. So again, there's several things that can be done from one report that can go across multiples. Now, the one thing to also keep in mind is you have these drill throughs and cross reports, things along those lines. What that does is if you don't have these turned on, as you dynamically go to each of the additional pages, it doesn't keep the same data. It might not let you go across the report because the data is just not there. Here, I want to show you, can I go from a division straight to a contract? Can I bypass the customer and get just right to the things that show that up? Well, if we look up here and we're going by contract amount or by contract description, if I right click on here, you'll see that I have no drill back because the description is really not telling me a whole lot. It's telling me that all we really have is a residential contract. If I right click here, the same thing. I have nothing to drill back on because there's no data in here that allows me to. But once I got over here, I've only got to go into the customer level. So in this case, I could get to the customer, which would take me here. And again, it just shows you all the information and everything changes here at once. So the main key to this is it allows you as the user the ability to click on the representation of the data differently, to actually get to the finer levels of the data, the detail, but also is on a lot of these things, when you do this from, say, a published station. Right now, I am actually in the report desktop. Most of the times, you as a end user are only going to see this sheet. You're not going to see the data fields, the visualizations, the filters. It gives you a way to have control over what it is that you want to do. So if I now click this and I go down to contract, normally if I did not have that ability, is I would have to go to each of these and then hope that on here I have the ability to go in, and as you can see, if I wanted to filter it, I have to filter it only this way. So it gives you just quick and easier ways to filter it. It gives you quick and easier ways to go back to the different levels. It lets you visualize it more from a, say, a hierarchy standpoint or a data of, multiple things at once. You could cover several different things in here. I've got another report here that I'll just bring up so that you can see it from maybe the AR standpoint. The AR standpoint could be the same way. Is here I see my top 10 customers. Well, if I wanted to see what really makes the data of this up, I can go to my customer, and again, I now see it where everything gets transformed immediately into here. And again, keeping in mind that if not, I would have to come up here, I'd have to go to my filter, I'd have to find all the different information. Again, this only goes 2 levels deep, but just to show you that it works both with customer information, contract information, whether it be service information. If I want to see the invoices over 90 days, I could do the drill through, and it's going to show me all the different customers that might have it. In that case, it was broke down by customers. So, and I didn't say that to confuse anyone, but what I mean is that when the data is broke down by a customer here, and you right click on it, it's going to take you to the customer information on the other one. If this was a holistic view where we were looking at a big number, and I don't have a good example there, I right clicked, it might show me multiple customers underneath there. Again, with multiple documents and things along those lines. There are a lot of great articles on this out of whether it be YouTube. If you actually looked up Power BI tutorials, there's a lot of good Microsoft information that will actually give you, and I will share this, this will be made available afterwards, to where it actually kind of has step-by-step directions on how you can make these. And again, keep in mind that the data here is based on FabricHam and that. But as you can see, you still get a lot of the information that I've been referring to here. It's just the way you lay it out. So once again, if there's any questions, I'd like to open it up for questions right now. Otherwise, I would turn it back over to Judy with a wrap up on how to get a hold of us, further webinars that are coming up, and those type of things. Judy?
Okay, feel free to type in your questions either in the chat pane or under questions. Is there any questions today? Oh, this is so awesome. I love Power BI and I use it every day. Now that accounts receivable report that he's showing, if you're interested in that type of report, just reach out and email us. And Alan's able to attach these AR reports to our customers. So, and there's an accounts payable one, and he'll do some training on these specific reports for customers that are us as their authorized partner. You do get these free, and we'll link them up. Or if you're experienced enough with Power BI and you want to hook them up for yourself, we'll give you the instructions on how to do that. So once again, thank you so much. Oh, we do have a question here. Do you find users get more confused if you publish with too many levels?
I guess I'm going to say yes and no. It would depend on the audience. If I'm looking at our C levels and things along like that, of course, they want to see it from a whole view. If I was doing it to a particular area, I might only show them, their branch, or I might only show them the data they need. So if all they're interested in is, maybe the dollar amounts, I probably wouldn't give them the ability to, drill up or down into what's making those amounts or things like that. So I would say take it by your user, your audience, and then their level. And really, it's the same way when I make a report. I like to ask the end user not only what are you expecting out of this, how are you going to use it, but who's going to use it. That way you can plan the report a lot better. You can make it either more curtailed or detailed to, again, your C-level people or your department managers or things along those lines.
Great question. Great question. And yeah, once again, I just love these reports. I'm such a visual person. Granted, paperwork is fabulous too. You get a lot of data. You get binders full of data, but this is really neat. So yes, thank you so much for that explanation. Any other questions? Well, with that, we'll put this as a wrap, and we'll send out the notes that Alan has available for you. And once again, want to remind everyone, we do have Power BI out in the library, and you can find that under at iscorp.biz on our website under events, and then go to the library, choose the category Power BI, and there's different years that you can check out, but there's a lot of information. I'll pull up the Power BI information for you to learn from and share knowledge with your team. And we hope to see you at the golf course. I do see some here who are coming to the golf course, so great, on August 16th here in Hawley. And then be sure to register for GPUC coming up in November. Thank you again for attending today, and have a super day.